On this episode of Star Trek Universe, Picard 304, no-win scenario, right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where we talk and you listen. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson, and we do some shit. We don't know what we're doing.
Talking about Star Trek, Matt and Dave. How's it going? What's going on, Dave? How you doing tonight?
I'm okay, man. You know, I was just like, my wife and I have been trying to keep up with the Challenge Argentina. No, sorry, the Challenge Australia. Like, they're putting out all these new Challenge episodes, gearing up for the World Championship.
Right.
And so, like, we're trying to get that done, and then I was like, "Ooh, Picard's happening! It's on! We gotta move!" We turned it off in the mid-final that they're running on the Challenge Australia just to watch Picard because I was so excited.
Yeah, just to watch Picard. Come on, Picard takes precedent over the Challenge. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, it does.
I don't care who you are.
Clearly, it takes precedent.
Yeah, man. Well, we got another really solid episode.
Oh, it was so good. It was like
really, really good.
Some of the best TNG episodes that were more cerebral than actiony.
Yeah, for sure. I think there were a few moments where the dialogue was a little clunky for me. I wish I'd taken notes for that, but there's just a few moments where I was like, okay, this could have been a little more care could have been given. I felt like that last episode had extreme care given to a lot of those conversations. And this one had a few where I was like, that could have been a little better. But it had some amazing moments too. The Shaw Wolf 359 monologue was amazing.
Yeah, the fans called that one.
Yeah. I guess all we knew was that he hated the Borg for some reason. Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. He'd be a survivor of Wolf 359 and a hater of Picard.
Mm-hmm. I was there for it. It was cool. He did a really good job. What's his name? Stashwick, a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
God, just really poured that emotion in. Like,
yeah. And I'm loving Captain Shaw more and more every episode. In this episode, when he said, "Sorry, at some point, asshole became replacement for charm."
Yes.
It's great. It's great. Because it's just self-aware. He knows he's being an asshole. He's just like pushing people away because he has all this like survivor's guilt and stuff.
Yeah. And what was that Seven said? If you were a changeling and not just a dick. He's like giving her all the compliments.
Yeah. That's what you would say if you were a changeling and not just a dick. It was really good. Loved that. About the changelings. And the one I guess we've seen two now. Vadic is a changeling apparently
of some sort.
It was very strange.
Unless she has like a changeling prosthetic.
Yeah, I think she's a changeling. I think that's what we're supposed to gather from that. And that's why they said no one matters but you. Like everything, they don't care about the solids. So they're like, your men are disposable, your ship's disposable. You just need to get you're the only one we care about.
Yeah.
It looked like she cut off her own hand, and it became part of a communication device with another changeling, and then it became part of her again, which is a weird and gross thing. And that's where I was getting the two changelings we've seen now, especially the one we saw turn into goo and go into the wall when Seven caught it in the hallway. They're real gross now. Like, I understand why they need to update the effects because the goo in 2003 looked like, a
shimmery, gold Capri Sun commercial from the 90s.
Yeah, it looked like Alex Mack or something.
Yeah.
From Nickelodeon. And so, like, it was bad. I get why you can't do that now. But I honestly would rather an updated version of that than, like, it look like flesh and skin that's, like, crawling into the vents. That looked disgusting. I did not enjoy it.
It looks like when the Carpathian is trying to escape from the painting in Ghostbusters 2.
Yes, absolutely. Really gross, fleshy creature. I didn't dig it. I kind of wish they'd go. I'd rather see Capri Suns than that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with Capri Suns. I was like, ugh, it's like That's disgusting. That looks
really
like
gross.
a diseased ball sack going into the vents.
Mm-hmm. It really was. I did not enjoy that. So I don't know if that's like what they look like all the time, or if that's because it was still transforming out of human form and like it still looked fleshy. I don't know. It just did not work for me. I didn't like it. It looked like something from a horror film, and I don't know. And I get they're trying to make them look a little more scary or whatever.
Well, the thing is this changeling was from a different house. So
yeah, one day we'll find out about the disease they had.
That house has ball sack soaking in Clorox.
Oh, okay. Yeah, not a fan. Don't want to talk about it anymore. Just had to bring it up.
Yeah. Then there are changelings that are gold and shimmery.
Yeah, I really prefer that type.
Those are the Capri Suns.
House Capri Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, all in all, great episode. A lot of stuff for Riker to do this episode. A lot of emotional Riker
apologize,
stuff.
You piece of shit.
Yeah. he got over it quickly, which was good. I really didn't want to see like a whole episode where he maintained that attitude. I thought it was whiny as hell last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was, he's like, "You were right." Like that's how they get around it. Like he just realizes he was right. I should have done something sooner. But it was such a weird reaction last episode. I was just like, the fact that it ended up immediately upon this episode made me feel even worse about that decision for the last episode. Because it's like, what was the point of that? You just made Riker seem whiny and petulant, and then and it didn't even have any stakes. You weren't going anywhere with it.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think there's something rooted there emotionally for him because he says you were right. You know, I should have acted sooner, basically. But then he flips and does the exact same thing for the entirety of the episode, which is fight to like just be stagnant.
Yeah.
And I think that's all tied in with Deanna and Kestra and his dead son. And really loved that conversation he had about like all the places we've gone to the edge of the universe, all of the things we've seen, and I still don't know if there's anything after this.
Yeah, he's like, if anyone would have discovered an evidence of the afterlife, it would have been me. All the travels I've had, you know, and it's not. I'm not finding it, and that's disturbing. He's facing the bagel man.
Yeah, and he's facing his own despair. And I just watched the Banshees of Inisherin, and I feel like I'm getting the same message from Riker this episode.
Banshees of Inisherin is
so good.
It's so good, but I also hated it.
I felt seen in ways I didn't know I wanted to or needed to. And although I laughed at several of the dark humored things, I actually wept watching it, and I loved it. Me too.
I just, we won't get too much into Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah.
We're covering it over on Bingers shortly. It's because we're doing all. That's what I just right before this I was watching All Quiet on the Western Front because that's we're doing all of the Oscar nominated contenders or whatever over on Bingers Assemble, and that I liked that one a lot. It was one of my favorites. Banshees was one of my favorites, but man, it's there's some just darkness in it.
Yeah. So before the show started, Matt confused the hell out of me. Because he said just finished All Quiet on the Western Front, and what I heard was just finished All Quiet on the Western Front. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "World War I."
No,
what?
you said what Western Front? And I was like, "Oh, World War I." And you were like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I was so confused. I didn't even know that was a movie. I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, it was another one of the nominated ones. So I enjoyed the stuff between Jack and Picard. I liked that Jack lied and said he didn't need this.
Yeah.
That was that. But then was revealed that he had needed it at least at some point because he went to see Picard, give that impromptu speech to that gathering.
And Picard's cocky answer, like, the only family I've ever needed was Starfleet. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
It's just, like, heartbreaking.
Exactly. But the thing is, he didn't know. And he's just... The thing I'd noticed there is he's learned to play the game of being the old. That whole scene. He's in TNG. He's just never has time, and he's always like trying to escape those moments whenever he can.
Mhm.
He doesn't want to be a part of the delegations or the speeches or this or that. He's like, I just want to move on and do my command stuff. And in that moment, you can tell that he had, at that point, gotten used to the role a little bit of being the affable admiral.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, all right, hold off on eating my food another 15 minutes and tell all these stories, and then I'm going to stop and get back to my life. But, in doing so, playing that role, he said something he didn't even really mean. We all know, because of generations, how important a family was to him and how... Federation, while very important to him in his life, it was not exactly a substitution.
I really loved that entire scene.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I was beside myself. I enjoyed it. The whole episode.
I was ever so slightly annoyed at the whole plot line about the birth of the thing. Not that I didn't like it. I liked the birth of the thing. I did the birth of all the squid buddies. But what I did get annoyed at is like in the third episode or whatever, we heard them say bioelectrical currents. Da 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 da. That was a strange thing, and we were like, okay, it's a life form. Like we knew immediately. And then the things were happening, and I was like, and I saw the lights brightening, and I was like, oh, they got to catch a. They got to get that energy. They got to harness that energy somehow. Like at the very beginning of this episode when the lights brightened, and I was like, oh, look, it looks like the lighting from TNG for a second. I was like, that means they need to harness that and like use it. I really did. I was like, man, this is lit terribly. This looks like the 90s. Oh, it's brightened up. I see.
Look at that even TV lighting.
Exactly. There's no mood to this at all.
They abandoned that shit in generations.
But when that happened, I was like, oh, well, that's what they need to do. And it was just took till like, 35 more minutes into the episode before they had that idea. And like, I know that part of the fun of that is supposed to be they give you the tools to solve it. But sometimes like I get annoyed when the characters don't catch on to like an idea after I've had it for like the full hour of the episode.
I felt similarly.
It was a nice, tight Nebula episode, giving birth to a space creature.
It wasn't Wrath of Khan.
It was not Wrath of Khan, not at all. And now we do have Vadic, who is probably really out for revenge, after this, though, and has a good reason to, They threw an asteroid at her.
I know. I loved it. He pulled her own trick on her.
Yeah. Loved it.
I loved it. That was fantastic. And as much as I thought it was kind of silly, the whole thing, like, we're probably going to die in all these asteroids. Yeah, we'll give it a shot. I mean, they're going to win.
Yeah. I loved how all the conversations about trying to find out who a changeling is.
Mm-hmm.
That was all great. I liked how just Shaw is up on everything. He clearly was part of the Dominion War. Like, he knew, he's like this character he was through the Borg conflicts. He was in the Dominion War. Like, he knows all this stuff. He has this information because of the way he's talking about how to track down a changeling, I just thought that was neat.
You gotta find their pot.
I assume you don't mean cannabis, sir. Good line. I thought he was like going for like pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, like what they're after or something, Like I thought that's what he was going for. Yeah, if you get their gold, you have control over them. Like I thought he was going for like a leprechaun analogy at first.
Yeah, I didn't connect it to either, but I didn't put it to that either. I was just like, all right, what are we talking about? Oh, right, the bucket.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was all good. But what I really, really enjoyed was the line. I hated its placement, and I'll get to that in a second, but I loved the line when she realizes who the changeling is and shoots LaForge and says, yeah, she always calls me Commander 7. out of respect. So it's like, really, I loved that line. Loved it. I do wish they'd had that conversation after the 2-minute window that they had. Because like he's got his tools out and he's like takes this moment, like the whole ship's relying on you doing this thing quickly. He takes a moment to go, how'd you know? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. She's like, it's because of this. Let me give you a sick burn, and then you can go back to work, grease monkey.
Yeah, dipshit from Chicago.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It's one of those things where it bothered me too, but sussing it all out, I was like, there was nowhere else that could have fit.
Totally could have later. You totally could have had been in the denouement of the episode. And they looking down at her body, and they could have just thrown that line in later. Like,
I mean, yeah, but
it would have worked. Would have worked fine.
It would have worked if the episode had been structured a bit differently with everyone else.
They could have just cut back to them, like easily. It could have worked as they're flying away. They could have easily had that line anywhere else. It's just one of those things.
I would take that line over. They could have cut back to that instead of Beverly looking at the space squids and going, strange alien civilizations, or whatever it was, seek out new life and new civilizations.
Seek out new life.
And Riker goes, let's boldly get the hell out of here.
Yeah. We
could have had that there, because that was cringe.
That was pretty cringy. Pretty cringy. I agree. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm a sucker for all the seek out life and some new life and new civilization stuff. I am.
By the way, forgive me, Trekkies out there, Trekkies and Trekkers, however you identify. I couldn't remember the line. I've seen every episode of the original series like 5 million times. But for some reason, my brain didn't work.
No, man. You don't even take Adderall, right?
No.
Almost everyone I know who podcasts is ADHD and on Adderall in one form or another.
I am ADHD, but I have not. No, I'm not on Adderall at this point. No. I should be.
Yeah, you should be. It's great. It keeps me really focused. It really does. And I'm on a low dose, but like I'd take the extended release low dose. Anyway, there's an Adderall shortage everywhere right now, and almost everyone I co-host with in different shows is out of their Adderall. It's just like we're all like, none of us can focus at all.
Yeah. I just couldn't remember the line,
No, yeah. It's just, I've been having these conversations where I'll like be talking and be like, no clue where I was going with that at all. Like it's been a tough podcasting week. I hope the shortage ends soon.
Yeah, that's rough.
It is. I guess I've become used to it, and I don't know if this is always how scattered I was before the Adderall, but.
You were always pretty scattered.
Oh, I know.
One thing I noticed about you would start like 3 or 4 different sentences and just never finish a sentence. You're always hopping to
stories too. I'm really big about like I'll start a thing, but the thing is, they all stay in my brain and bother me until I finish them. So a lot of times I'll start a story, then finish story 3, then finish story 1, then finish story 4, then finish story 2. Like I'll just weave through like, oh wait, there's a dangling thread in my head. What is it?
And I'm ADHD as well, so I'm noticing that you're doing that, but I'm not listening. I'm thinking about this nail that's stuck in the wall over there that hasn't had anything hanging on it, and it's bothering me.
Yeah.
So I'll say a thing I wrote down: diverting all power to life support, but they have enough power for the holodeck. Whoops! Lantern hung. Small independent power cell.
Yeah. Yep.
I was happy about that.
I was too. I immediately like wrote it down as like, why are they in the holodeck? It like made me annoyed. Like, the Admiral gets to go to the holodeck while everyone else is having to struggle for life support. What the hell? And then they hang the lantern.
But then like they hung the lantern, but they did it well because it was like, a place for people to go when there's no more hope left. Like, like
a refuge.
It's like the Titanic still playing music as the ship sank.
Yeah, which is a really great idea. Really, really great idea.
It was like the lantern was hung and I was satiated, but then like I was like emotionally sated in a way that I was like, oh, that's a beautiful and sad thing.
Yeah. I really think they're going to try to make a show around Jack Crusher.
You think?
Oh, yeah. I think there's a plans for maybe not a whole show around him. Maybe he'll be a character on whatever going forward, but they are putting a lot of work into building his character.
They are him and Shaw.
Yeah. In those moments, he's like, this isn't real. Like he says, can we go? We can go wherever you want. And he's like, nah, one fake place is as good as another. He's just like, he's just not into it. That reminded me of Kirk in Generations, Kirk and Picard as well. Well, it was more Kirk's thing. Picard just came to the Nexus for the purpose of leaving the Nexus, but Kirk was there. And then when he realized there was no threat here, there was no life here, it was a fake world, he decided he wanted out of it, even though it's perfect, and that's not real. And so Jack has that, which I love. And they just kind of keep adding little bits like that to his character that I'm like, I know who Jack is. Like, I really know. And that's the thing I loved about this episode. I like LaForge a lot. I like Jack a lot. I like Shaw a lot. I guess they're the three main new characters. And then, of course, Riker, Picard, and Seven and Crusher. It's like all of them together. I feel like we've got this sudden ensemble that I care about everyone on it. Yeah, and it's really, and they're all weaved together in this kind of complex way, tied together by the Federation, but not really. It hasn't really been a command structure yet. It's not like it's a ship that's being run. It's like everyone's kind of from their own. Like there's an admiral and a random captain over here, and a captain who's been injured, who's not on duty anymore, and there's a Seven of Nine who's been like whatever decommissioned. So everyone's kind of like doing their own thing, but they're all trying to have the same goal. I don't know. I like how the show has put me in the shoes of all these like characters kind of pulling in their own directions. Of course, the two Crushers aren't even in the chain of command at all. I'm just digging it a lot. I'm just digging how much I care about every character.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying that as well. Metalis has said that they are leaving it open for a spinoff of some sort. Of course, I don't know how likely that is, given that Discovery just got canceled.
I think Discovery's just run its course. I mean, I know that, like...
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, it's 5 years, man.
But they weren't... the thing that bugs me is they weren't planning for it to be an ending.
Well,
and Jonathan Frakes said that they, like... Because he directed the first part, and he's like, yeah, they're jumping in and they're doing some quick fixes to turn it into a series finale. Nothing about that feels good to me. But also, I'm not upset about it going away. So...
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel similarly. I've enjoyed the show, and I hope these characters at some point find a new life in Star Trek. Like, I like them all, and I want to know more about the, 31st, what is it? What century are they in?
32nd century.
32nd. So just after Kang. Got it.
Mm-hmm. You Marvel bastard.
Yeah. So I just I'm bummed that they're canceling Discovery, because all Star Trek is good Star Trek to me. But yeah, it's not the one that it's my favorite. And I think the last couple seasons, they weren't sure if they were coming back. And I think the last couple seasons have all had endings that could have been finales, Mm-hmm. I think we've discussed that. I think we've discussed that in each season, where we're like, I could see how they're not sure if they're coming back, because they ended it in a way that, like, this could be a season finale. This could be a series finale. But hopefully they had that same mindset, and that got them close enough that making some minor changes will work,
Yeah, Discovery's my least favorite of all the current shows. It just is. So
I hear that.
I'm fine with it, especially if we're trying to do a spinoff of this. If we're still looking at Section 31 and they need to save up some money for Michelle Yeoh now that she's the winner of all the things.
Yeah, may win an Oscar.
Yeah. We're still talking about Starfleet Academy. They're still talking about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of Star Trek going on.
Well, and also, I don't know if they're experiencing the same problems that Marvel and Star Wars are, but there's a lot of pushback on this whole...
VFX houses?
No.
Oh.
I was talking about there's a lot of pushback on the idea of just having content every week. I mean, we've been talking about it with Star Trek for months and months, or years, honestly, like where it's like, okay, if you have this much content, it just starts to not be as important to you. You know, you're just like, oh, there's another one next week. You know, I don't have to live with this one, you know? And I mean, Star Trek's had like some overlap even, I believe. There's been a few shows that overlapped. So anyway, Star Trek's just getting to the point where it's like, there's a new episode almost every week. And I think that Marvel's starting to move away from that. I think that Star Wars is sort of backing down to, like, I think all these series are kind of going like, okay, maybe 50 episodes a week is too, 50 episodes a year is too, not per week, sorry.
Well, I mean, if you have that much, you don't have time to go back and rewatch the old ones. What you just watched.
There's that, but there's also just like, I just think there's a perceived value when there's a little bit of scarcity.
Yeah.
And it makes you make calls like, I guess I'm going to watch Marvel and not Star Wars because I just can't keep up with both, you know? Which Disney doesn't want. But Paramount, I don't know. I wonder how Paramount's doing with Star Trek, because I wonder how well the shows maintain their audiences, or because, as we discussed last week, how they're so different. The audience is so different. If it's like just a different game for them.
Well, you know, CBS and Paramount merging, Paramount did say that there was going to be some cutbacks recently, and then Discovery was canceled kind of abruptly. So, I mean, they're doing Strange New Worlds. Picard is going away and Discovery's going away. If they're wanting to bring in other things like Section 31 with Michelle Yeoh, which I have to imagine is an absolute freaking priority right now because of her star rising the way it has very recently. Over here anyway.
She also might get too expensive, or she might just not want to do it. I mean, when she signed on to that, what was it, 5 years ago when they said they were going to do it? And then
yes, but she recently said they was still being developed and she was still into it. So.
Right. But I wonder, like, if she wins the Oscar, I wonder if it's like one of those things. If she doesn't win the Oscar, maybe her star is this high and they can still get her. If she wins the Oscar, she might just start getting some offers that, you know, she gets on a just different level of stardom that she might not be able to come do a weekly Star Trek show. Maybe.
And here's a fun idea. If they can't get her back, wouldn't it be great if they just turned Section 31 into a warp show?
Oh, I love that.
Right?
Oh, dude, what if that's what the plan is?
We don't know where she went.
Exactly. She could be anywhere at any time.
She disappeared into the Guardian of Forever.
Right, like what if she's his handler or something, you know, like, or like what if she shows up and it's like Worf, Raffi, because this show's ending. It's like Worf, Raffi. I kind of wanted it to include good old guy, I can't remember his name, that was a Klingon.
Oh, Beard.
Beard
from Discovery.
Yeah. What was his name? Damn.
Oh man, I just realized that for him to have had Ash Tyler.
That's it.
For him to, I didn't even look it up. It just came to my brain.
Yeah. No, good job.
Hey, that never happens anymore. I'm super proud because now it's canon that the Klingons have 2 penises. So for them to like turn him into a human, they had to.
Give him the old snip.
Yeah. Unless they didn't, and he was just like, it's a family trait. Earth got weird there for a minute after World War III.
Well, it's also like, you know, it's the future. People probably do all kinds of modifications.
Yeah. I got this done in Japan.
They don't, actually. That's not allowed. Even if it's just for weird sex stuff. No augments. Yeah, you know, there's got to be like a section of Starfleet that's like hunting down weird sex fetish augments.
Section 69.
Yep, that's what it is. All right, this is a great episode. I liked it a lot. I think we got a lot of cool stuff to come in the coming weeks. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
I haven't been this excited for a Star Trek show in a while. I've liked shows, but this one I'm really excited for.
Yeah, me too. They're still doing homages. No Win Scenario, obviously an homage to Wrath of Khan, but I haven't felt like a real copycat thing. I was worried in episode 2, but now we've
and also on. No Win Scenario. I know this comes from Wrath of Khan, but the Kobayashi Maru has become like a much more broad Star Trek ideal, like being able to face a no-win scenario and come out the other side, like, or being able to face death, like that. I know it definitely comes from Wrath of Khan, but it's like dripping all over Star Trek these days, like over the years, because of Wrath of Khan, but we've seen the Kobayashi Maru in tons of media and books and everything. So absolutely. So I think it's more of like, I mean, those early movies are so foundational. Those early movies and episodes are so foundational that you just get up to a point where like the themes are going to be there. So I didn't really think this episode was the name No Win Scenario was necessarily about Wrath of Khan, but yeah, it is where that ideal in Star Trek kind of comes from. Absolutely.
By the way, they answered your question.
Yeah,
they answered your question about refitting a ship and it changing its class.
Oh, did they?
He mentioned the thing about like, you're thinking that even though this is a totally refit ship, those nacelles are like still like 20 years old. It's still built on like a 20-year-old foundation.
Right. Yeah. It is still the same ship. That is true. But it's weird that they changed the class. That's what I thought was weird. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is what you thought was weird.
We just haven't seen that before.
But if they've changed everything but, like, the nacelle structure.
Right.
I guess.
I guess. It's just a strange... I mean, it's still the same ship, because it's not the Titan... Wait, no, it is the Titan A.
It is the Titan A, yeah.
Okay.
That's also weird.
Oh, wait. Is it just a different ship? Did I just get confused? I don't know.
No, it's the same ship as Riker's Titan, but it has been refit and reclassified as a different class, but it's also been named
with a different name. That is weird. Yeah, I have to go back and rewatch that scene. That's strange.
I feel like people who are like quibbling over this never watched MASH and just saw like how like just like the inefficiency of military.
Well, sure. It's just when you've been watching the show and they've been doing it one way, like for all these years, it's just a little weird for them to unexplainedly like treat the classification system differently.
And I bring up that because specifically in the movies, McCoy said the bureaucratic mentality is the only constant in the universe. And I feel like if there was like a political reason, like a political advantage to renaming it Titan A,
sure.
They or changing the class,
right?
They do it.
Sure. I will say this: I just love this ship, and I don't know if you feel the same way. But it being the Neo Constitution class and having all those echoes of the Constitution class, the way the top of the saucer looks, some of the shape of it, it just looks like a Constitution class at certain angles and stuff.
Certain angles, like when we saw like when Riker was debating whether or not they should do this nacelle trick to get out of there.
Yeah,
like look straight past them into the bridge. They have like the transparent bulb thingy that hung it looks exactly the same as the one that hung from the top of the Enterprise bridge in the motion picture.
That's great.
And Wrath of Khan.
That's awesome.
And I mean,
that's what I mean. There's a bunch of design elements. It doesn't look exactly the same. It's a little beefier and like more modern, but it looks from the outside when you see that top of the saucer section and it's like falling into the cloud. It looks so much like the original Constitution class and gives me those 1701 vibes, and I'm just like, yeah, this just feels good. It feels modern. It's using those design elements in a way that is not breaking canon. It's like, as we've talked about, we've talked about it over the years, like you could use those old ship designs because sure, people would like, use old designs because like styles come back, and that's what they've done here. And I love that. I love the idea that like 50 years after the actually I guess it's like 130 years or something since Kirk's time, and now they're like, yeah, we gotta make this look like it's a Neo Constitution. Like, that's super fun, man.
I was never a huge fan of like the constant streamlining after the Enterprise D looked weird when you compare it to everything that came before, and then they just kept getting like more arrow shaped and weird, where it was just like, I don't think people are on there. Like, I don't think it doesn't look like a real place.
They started making it look cooler and more aerodynamic, which doesn't make any sense. It's the stars, it's space. You don't have to be aerodynamic up there. But they wanted it to look more like a speed racer and more just, aerodynamic to denote coolness and speed. But that's not really what Star Trek was about. So I love what they've done with the ship and the Titan A. I love it.
Very much like the Titan A.
Yeah. Well, we got a little feedback, right?
Yeah, we got a little feedback. Let's see. On YouTube, Ferdinand Cesarano says, commenting on Picard 302, if you like being surprised, you shouldn't watch trailers. And by the way, you definitely shouldn't talk about anything you see in trailers, as many of us do not watch them. Well, Ferdinand, first of all, thank you for your feedback. Thank you for listening. It's our show. We're very excited to talk about trailers. We're excited to watch trailers. We want to talk about them with you guys. And I would say if you don't want to hear what was in the trailer, you probably shouldn't listen to that episode, because honestly, those episodes are some of our highest numbers. Yeah. People like getting excited about new things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, if you're that guy who doesn't like to hear trailer talk, it's probably like podcast listening is probably not even really like people talk about the trailers, like in podcasts generally. And I like knowing what's in the trailers. Mm-hmm. I don't like when the shows are irresponsible with what they put in the trailer. Sometimes that's where the line is for me, and it sucks because there's no way to know. But sometimes they just like put things they shouldn't in the trailer, and that's where I have a problem.
I agree. Chris Brown says, long-time listener, first-time feedbacker. You guys are awesome and my go-to Star Trek podcast. I don't have any specific feedback about the episode, other than it was a fun one. Probably my favorite episode of Picard so far. He's talking about 303. This season has definitely started better than the previous two. I just hope they can keep it going. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, yeah, Chris. Thank you so much.
Great
to have you as a listener out there.
Thanks for letting us be your go-to podcast.
Yeah, that means a lot to me.
It really does.
Yeah, for real. Thank you so much.
Like, I saw that feedback earlier today, and I've been kind of floating. Like, it got me through a bad work day, So.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chris. That's really meaningful to us.
Really is. And finally, we know who it's from.
Oh, is it from your altar?
So he says. He titles this. This is for 303, by the way, for last week. We didn't get to it because we did it too fast and he hadn't written it yet. He titles it Changelings. Well done, Stu Little. Stu says, "Hey guys, first off, shut up, Matthew. When I agree with Dave, it means he's right, because I am the arbiter of discussion. Then, now, forever. If I wasn't, you would not name this show after me. You'd better buck up your ideas about what you think your role is supposed to be in this Stooniverse. And you could start by recanting your support of this storyline about Picard's so-called son. If you take it back now, you could save yourself the personal and professional embarrassment when it is revealed that his father is actually Ronan, the anaesthetic, I can't remember how they said that, life form from Sub Rosa who banged Beverly and her grandma on the Scottish stereotype planet. Anyway, on to the episode. This problem with the sensors being scrambled while being chased makes me wonder why they don't just install retractable side view mirrors on starships. It's fair. Fair. X-Men Origins Wolverine flashback scene with a de-aged Patrick Stewart. Okay, it's not that, but it was my first thought. Nice scene, though it makes me wonder every time a crew member from TNG had a kid and Picard congratulates them, did it result in them kind of bluntly bringing up that he's not a dad and hoping he, who by that point would have been, in his 60s, would get to know what it feels like too. That just feels like a Riker thing. Or maybe a Deanna thing. I don't feel like Beverly would have said anything.
Yeah. Beverly doesn't say much these days. Keeps things close to the vest.
One of the few ways me and my dad are alike is we have a hard time making friends. I thought Sydney was going to start talking about how she dates holograms too. Dr. Oak put me to task. Wow, a Pokemon reference. I don't follow Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Pokemon. No. Is it the put me to task or is it Dr. Oak part?
Maybe both. I don't know.
Maybe both.
Let us know in the next email, Stu.
And I wonder if they slipped that through. Like if that's definitely a Pokemon reference, I wonder who slipped that through and how many Star Trek fans were not Pokemon fans that it got through.
Yeah. I didn't. Pokemon was after my time. He says, yeah, you tell her, Jean-Luc. She should have told you, assuming she's not lying about it all. If being the kid of a famous Starfleet officer was so dangerous, Jake Sisko would be dead 1,000 times over by now. Also, Jack knowing the quote-unquote facts, but still somehow resenting Picard is some bullshit. No, well, we found out this episode that he did kind of think he was going to try to reach out, and then he was like, oh, Picard's a dick because he doesn't want any of that.
Like, he was just being sensitive. He thought he wanted to get to know Picard, but wanted to know that Picard would want to get to know him, and then, did not work out.
Yeah. Stu says, Worf is full samurai now with the Zen thing, and I'm loving it. Should have offered some prune juice, though, unless he has addiction issues with it himself. Portal weapons are cool, but is there actually cake?
Nah, man, the cake is a lie.
Some sort of leak of a hazardous substance while the ship is involved in combat in a nebula? This feels very familiar somehow. Yeah, but they didn't do it like that, so it was okay. Come on, Stewie. Stu says, holy shit, changelings. Suck it, Secret Invasion.
I thought about that.
Maybe Vadic's crew are a new form of Jim Hadar. A Jim Hadar, spelled with a G instead of a J. All right. Stu continues, like they were really going to kill Jack. Not that I want him to die. I just want the Traveler to show up at the end of the season and be like, well, this is awkward. A long time ago, I was told the son of Beverly Crusher would be special and should be recruited to my organization. And I kind of jumped the gun on that bit. In short, we're restructuring our staff, and there's a new opening if you want it. I actually would be down for that.
That's really funny. Really, really funny.
And it would also be great if other travelers talk to the Traveler and they're like, dude, this is the 5th time you've done this. Stu says, I love Shaw's immediate, screw this is your problem to fix attitude and handing over command to Will. Well, he was pretty battered.
Yeah, I think it was just that he was losing command and had to give it off to someone. And he was like, Riker!
Yeah, he literally almost died on the table, man.
Yeah.
Stu says, kind of sad Picard didn't go all mirror universe on Will over the disagreement about what to do. And he sent a link to a picture from a comic book where Mirror Picard headbutted Mirror Riker and flipped him and body slammed him. I didn't read that issue, but that would have been cool to see that too. Anyway, really picked up with this episode with the villain reveal. Hope it maintains this level of intrigue. Take care, Stu. Thank you, Stu. Always bringing the goods on your feedback, man.
Yeah, for sure. Always. I think this was a really compelling episode too, but not in the same way. The last one really ratcheted up the mystery. This one, not so much. This one, I feel like we don't have it. We have no answers really, but except for the fact that Vadic's a changeling, I guess. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think if there's any other answers we got this episode. I mean, we got the nebula stuff figured out, that it was a life and everything.
We did get confirmation that it was that the portal tech apparently came from Daystrom Institute, because Vatic said
eject it, and then you like saw it go across the screen. Yeah, that's true.
Did you read that on what they ejected? That if you pause it says Daystrom Institute?
I noticed it, but I didn't until you said it. I didn't really know for sure.
Mm-hmm. But you know what else is at Daystrom Institute?
Yes, lore.
Which
that's what I was wondering a couple episodes ago. I don't know if we talked about this or not, but they said they went there to steal something, but what if they were stealing the portal tech just to make it look like they weren't stealing something else?
Mm-hmm.
What if that something else is lore? Like they're setting lore free to help them with something.
Mm-hmm.
Something only lore could help them with. I'm trying to think of what that would be.
And Moriarty, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. God. Or maybe lore, sets up the Moriarty thing. I don't know, man.
I'm excited.
Me too, man. This seems like there's a whole lot of fun stuff in the rest of the season. And this sort of like ended this section of the show. I feel like we're going to be kicking off a new adventure. This felt like a 4-parter, really. So I'm pumped.
Now I just need to see lore. I need to see Moriarty. I need to see Sayla, and I need to see Thomas Riker, and I need an answer to the SOS that went out in that first season episode, Conspiracy.
Yes, everything needs to be resolved. This is not Lost, Dave. They're not going to wrap everything up perfectly.
Isn't it?
All right. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. We are the Star Trek universe. We'll be back soon with more show. If y'all send in a bunch of feedback, we might be able to get to it this week or before the show. Because last week I didn't get to edit until halfway through the week because I just had no time. I had to play a show in Atlanta. But this week I got no shows. So might be able to do something sooner.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So send in your feedback. Maybe we'll get to it, but for midweek sometime. Be back soon. Sholon True.
Live long and prosper, and Discovery isn't really dead as long as we remember it. For this death takes place in the sunrise of New World. Mm-hmm.
For sure. Of all the Star Trek series, it was the most human.
It was the most something.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.